Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Praise the sun.
And Jordan.
Greetings, Jared. I'm glad to have you here on the show. And I'd like to say, Dom, it's alright to have you here as well.
Wow. Shots fired.
Damn.
I appreciate having you here, Dom. I appreciate having you here, too,
I said
Dom.
it was alright. Alright? I said it was alright to have you here, okay?
Did I ever tell you guys that, like, all animated media just sucks and it just can't hold a candle to anything that's not animated? Because it's all childish. Can't you see my nose up in the air? Like, it's just all childish, and it's just, if it's animated,
Hey,
I
Dom,
don't care about it
Kubo
based on that
and the
alone.
Two Strings? Or was that too animated for you to watch?
I don't even know anything that's animated.
Real quick, somebody on the Easy Allies, on a quick side note, somebody during the Easy Allies Tuesday night stream asked if there's such a thing as British anime, and somebody the answer is even funnier. The response they got was Wallace and Gromit is a British anime. It's really funny. It's a really funny.
Oh my
bit.
goodness.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good question,
Seriously,
though. Because I'm also ignorant to that. So I'm getting serious now, actually. Is anime
Is Japanese animation.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Anime.
I didn't know if it was a style or if it had to be Japanese in origin.
No, the
But, like,
debate there.
Avatar:
this
The Last.
just an idiot. But yeah, what Jared's like saying is Avatar or stuff like that
Is considered American anime, so
yeah, it's not even considered anime by the nerds because they're like, if it's not from Japan, it's not anime. But then that doesn't make any sense because half of anime is animated in Korea.
but the people with girlfriends say like, yeah, sure, it's American anime.
The people with girlfriends.
Whoa.
Plus, Korra was animated a lot in Korea as well by
Yeah.
an anime studio. So.
Anyways, in terms of what we've been playing, Trials Rising came out this week. Been playing it a bunch. I'm actually level 42 or 43, something like that. It seems like a lot, but it's just one of those games that, like, early on you level up faster, and as the game progresses, you need more XP to get to higher levels. And obviously in a game like that where you start with easy stages, you kind of run through those a lot faster, and as the game goes on, once you start getting to the medium and more difficult stages, if you're trying to get the gold trophies and stuff, it starts taking a little bit longer, you know what I mean? So you come out of the block a lot faster, and then you kind of coast the rest of the game.
Jared, who said Wallace and Gromit?
Somebody in their chat.
Oh, okay. I thought
yeah.
it was one of the allies. I can't stop thinking about cheese and crackers now.
No, it's just a really funny answer to what's a British anime.
Yeah,
Wallace
it's a
and Gromit.
perfect.
It's like Shaun the Sheep.
Cheese and crackers.
So, real quick, there are some frame rate hiccups when you first start playing the game, but as I kept playing, they kind of, like, went away. Obviously, it's not something that affects me a whole lot, but if that's your thing, if it's, like, even the slightest frame rate issues bother you, then it's going to bother you. But the game plays really well. There's some really interesting levels. There's one based on Universal Studios that does a lot of really cool stuff. It has, like, a Western Hollywood type set. It has the big globe with the waterfall. It has an inside stage area where as you start going through it, it's a lot of blue screens and like props, and then it quickly switches to as if it's an edited CG like sci-fi movie, so it's like actual aliens and stuff, and then at the end of it goes back to like blue screen, so it's kind of like you being in a Hollywood sci-fi movie. Really cool idea for a track.
Do you think this series is one of those things where they keep having to kind of like up the ante and improve upon this big bombastic thing that they did in the last game to surprise you, almost like in a Fast and Furious sort of way where it's like it just has to keep getting crazier and crazier? Is that the deal here?
No. So I think that is a way they've partially evolved, and some of the levels do that, but it's not every level isn't trying to be crazier than something you saw in the previous game. There are some of those bigger showpiece things, but the detail and the animations that trigger during a level are, I think, the thing that they're doing as far as getting more familiar with the franchise and having better technology in their fingertips. So, like, there's a level where natural disasters happening, and there will be, like, platforms where you think you're going to land, but, like, it caves in and it turns into, like, a slope or like a different shaped platform, so you kind of have to know that's happening or adjust really quickly, right, and be good at the game. Kind of like Levolution. There's another level that's really cool where Mission Impossible-esque, you're going through this big giant like shipping airplane, this cargo ship, and at the end of the level, the back opens up, and the last third of the level is you going over platforms that fell out of the back of the shipping airplane, and you having to make sure you don't obviously fall to your death. So it kind of changes up what you're worrying about and the faults and stuff like that. A lot of the game is what I expected in terms of improvements. So
mentioning that, before I forget, I'm going to forget this. What's the difference with the Switch version that you told me to be wary of?
So the Switch doesn't have... the Switch triggers are basically on-off triggers, right? There's no, like...
yeah, they're very clicky and not very... not much of a depression to them.
Well, I forgot what the term is, but, like, they're on-off triggers, right?
They're digital versus analog, I believe.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. Or maybe the opposite of that. One of the two.
So, like, on a PS4 or Xbox controller, you can push the trigger halfway down, for example, and that's sending a different signal to the game than if you push it all the way down or something.
Exactly. So a Switch, the Joy-Cons have 0 to 1. So if it's not pushed, it's 0. If you push it down, it's 1. Xbox and PlayStation is 0 to 100, and if you hold it anywhere between there, it's one of those numbers.
Honestly, helped ruin Doom on the system. And another thing, the analog sticks are not, kind of like you were talking about having the 1 or 0 versus 100 points of articulation with the triggers on the Xbox, PlayStation. It's kind of like that in the analog sticks, I feel, where they have a lot less range
of motion.
What they recognize as input.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. There's terms to this. This is like super deep video game shit, but like what it actually recognizes is a far lesser range than that of a PlayStation analog stick or an Xbox One.
Yeah. So for a game like Trials, the franchise, in order to beat a lot of the harder levels, you need to have that variation in the trigger manipulation, because varying up the amount of acceleration you put on the bike changes the types of maneuvers you can accomplish in the game. So
even the Pro Controller is clicky like that.
Yeah, but I still think it still has some of it, though. Yeah.
It's better, but it's still not what you'd probably ideally want.
A cool thing about this game is it actually supports the GameCube controller on the Switch, which is pretty cool. Just a side note there.
Clicky.
Yeah, but if you want to, use a GameCube and have that issue instead of a Pro Controller, you know what I mean? If you like the comfort of that instead.
So what is that going to do on a... Because this is like breaking down my decision to buy it on Switch or not. Do you think it's not worth buying on Switch? Is this really going to... Is it like a difference between being able to get 2-star and 3-star on a level, something like that?
In my opinion, and I'm not saying this as like an elitist or something, but as somebody who's like, I'm pretty good at the game because I've played the franchise like numerous games and I've gotten really good and I've learned the intricacies of these very specific moves you need to know how to do. I think that as someone like you who's coming in new to the franchise, I think it'll worsen your experience and you probably will have a tougher time in the second half of the game, specifically on the Switch. Also, I mentioned there's some frame rate issues. That's coming on an Xbox, which probably the PlayStation is having the same thing. Imagine the frame rate issues this game is having on the Switch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's having them on the Xbox.
It's essentially a side-scroller. You'd think it wouldn't be quite as taxing.
But like I talked about, upping the ante, as we mentioned, they do a lot of stuff in the background of these environments to make it interesting. You know what I mean? Yeah, and all this Levolution and stuff. I would say get this game on Switch when it goes on sale. Cool thing is Ubisoft's known for cutting their games a lot.
I feel like you've convinced me to go PS4 if I do end up playing it.
Oh, if the playing it like on the go and stuff, I think is a plus for this game because it is one of those games where
it feels like it would be perfect in that handheld mode. But
it's a tough decision. I think either get it on PS4 at full price or just wait it out and make the decision later, because whether you buy it on PS4 or Switch, it's going to be on sale later anyways. Ubisoft is really good at cutting the price on their games. So, with Trials Rising, I've mentioned a lot of stuff I do like. It kind of met my expectations. I wouldn't say it exceeded them because I kind of knew what I was going to get with this game. It's the first mainline game since Fusion, which came out in 2014, which is crazy. So it's the first mainline Trials game in 5 years. Obviously, we had Trials of the Blood Dragon. The one thing I will say, and the biggest problem with this game, is the way the levels are laid out. So I'm going to try to explain this as quickly as I can. In Trials Fusion, the way it worked is there would be separate sections based on a theme. So say there was like, I'm just coming up with names, these aren't the actual names because I don't remember them, but there's Ice Adventure, right? And you'd click on that, and inside of that there was 8 levels, right? All progressing in difficulty from easy to most difficult, and then usually a skill challenge at the end. 8 total levels. You'd back out of that, you'd go to Forest Hills. Click on that. There was 8 levels based on that theme, and there was about, I think, 10 of those, right, in the base game. And when the DLC came out, it was easy to add because it was just another column, right, in that menu. DLC number 1, DLC number 2, obviously they had actual names. But the way the levels were structured was very easy for people to get in and get out. And the way you progressed in the game is it wasn't that you had to complete all the levels because they went up in difficulty. It was that you had to get a certain amount of medals. So, silver medals counted as 2 points, gold is 3, platinum is 4, bronze is 1. And once you hit a certain amount of medals, you would unlock the next area. So if you're really good, you wouldn't have really any issue. If you were kind of good, you'd probably have to go back and try to turn a couple of those silvers into golds, right? And the way the whole game was laid out was very simple, very understandable, very clear. I have no trouble with the Trials Rising finding the levels, but I can totally see why it's an issue, and it is kind of dumb that they switched it. Basically, it's a globe layout, so all these levels pop up in the first area on the United States, right? All of the easy levels. Then a section of easy levels will pop up in Europe, then a section of easy levels will pop up in Asia. Then when you unlock the second tier of difficulty, medium difficulty levels will pop up in the United States, but there's no clear indication that they're different. They're obviously a different icon in the United States, but by the time you're getting through the game and you're towards the end of the game, it's just a bunch of icons on the map, right? And it's very difficult to filter through. You just kind of have to hover over them and figure it out. There's obviously a filter tab on the top that lets you like show me just medium difficulty levels, or show me just American levels, or show me just American difficult levels. That's cool and all, but that's not the base. The base is just this globe of a bunch of icons. You know what I mean? It's really dumb.
It reminds me of Need for Speed Payback, where it's like you guys had a solid system running, and then you decided to just totally fuck that up and do some random new thing where it's like you try to get fancy with it and you fix something that wasn't broke, I guess.
Yeah, and once again, as somebody who's familiar with it, it doesn't really bother me. But if I was somebody coming for the first time, I'd be like, obviously you're somebody who plays video games a lot too, Jordan, so you'd see the filter thing and you'd understand how to find them. It just like, it overcomplicates it for no reason. There's like, right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I said, the system...
You're not going to know that if you're jumping in as a relatively noob type of person,
And if you're new to the franchise, you're like, oh, this is how it's always been? Gross. When in reality, like, I have the frame of reference of, like, in Fusion, it was way easier and way better, right? I just don't like the system here. That being said, the customization...
Fusion might be already on PS Plus in my library, so I might just go with that.
I think it's the best game in the series, Fusion. Trials Rising is really good.
I'll do that.
Trials Rising is really good, but the way I would rank him so far is Fusion, Rising, Evolution. It's a really solid game. The customization options are bonkers. There's loot crates in the game, obviously, but it doesn't really affect anything. You get one every time you level up. And like I said, I'm already level 44, and I've played for maybe 4-ish hours. So I've opened 44 crates, tons of stuff, stickers, gear. All of the clothing is pretty much customizable with color schemes, so you can completely deck out your guy to look exactly how you want. There's poses you can have on your guy, so whenever you win a game, he does a pose or like an animation. Dom, by the way, Solaire's pose is in the game, which is really cool. It's one I'm rocking currently. Praise the sun. Yeah,
Jared, did you end up playing Of the Blood Dragon, Trials?
Yeah.
You did play that one. How was that?
Cool. Very wacky. Less based on skill and like getting good at the game, and more on just we're gonna show you a bunch of crazy stuff. It definitely lives up to the Blood Dragon theme. There's like a part where you like are trying to save an archer and a magician and a warrior. It's wacky and it's out there. It's fun. Definitely not a core title. The one thing I will say real quick too, because definitely want to hear you guys have been playing. I've kind of been going on for a while. Is how would I explain this? So throughout the other Trials games, there was this guy who did YouTube videos called Professor Fat Shady, and he was known for doing Trials videos to help people get better at the game or to help you unlock achievements, because the game gets really difficult, right? That's one thing with Trials, is it gets very difficult. And he had a very excellent series called University of Trials on his channel, and he would help people get better at Trials and show people how to do certain things. They actually brought him on for this game, and he designed all of the tutorial stuff in this game. Not only that, there's a section called University of Trials in the game, and it's him teaching you techniques you can do in Trials. So they brought this guy that was part of the community.
This at the E3 presentation, right?
They said that he was going to be a part of the game, yes, but I didn't know to what integration that is, because they bring in sometimes social media content creators, and it's like, oh, they're this weird like custom avatar of them has like 2 lines in the game. What does that mean? They literally gave him like the keys to the car in terms of creating the introductory program to this game, and it's phenomenal. He voices it too. It's great. It's just cool to see somebody who had a passion for a game and built his own community, and his videos are very high quality. And he, the Studio Mix Trials is in Poland, I think. Don't correct me on that if you want, but it's an Eastern European country. I'm pretty sure it's Poland. And he's from Australia, and they actually flew him up to work on the game. I just think it's really cool. Yeah, it's pretty much it for Trials Rising. Didn't play any Kingdom Hearts 3, unfortunately. Played some more Apex, nothing to say there. Finished Sex Education. Continued Punisher. Finally got around to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Dang.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What you think of that, huh?
Great movie. I still like Homecoming more, but so it's a very good movie. There are some weird plot things that people just like glance over for the sake of, I guess, liking the movie, but there's some weird stuff that happens in the movie that doesn't really line up. Like why Miles' dad doesn't recognize him at like 80 different points in that movie based on what he's wearing or what's happening is kind of weird.
We can say the same for Homecoming.
Yeah. I don't know.
I watched it when they were doing the kind of funny MCU run review, and I was like, I liked it the first time I saw it. I didn't love it, and I liked it even less the second time I saw it.
Yeah, I just maybe see things differently. Oh, also, it's probably a case of the movie just being overhyped for me. Of everybody talking about how great.
Oh yeah.
Just
to be clear, I'm not like head over heels for Spider-Verse. I just really like it.
Yeah, I like it. Didn't really like some of the voice acting for some of the characters. Obviously, I loved Miles. Obviously, I loved his dad. I love Liev Schreiber as Kingpin.
Mahershala as the Prowler.
Yeah. The Doc Ock reveal was okay. Kind of saw it a mile away. It just the movie was so overhyped for me that it kind of fell flat in some aspects. Still, easily the second best Spider-Man movie for me personally. I really like it. It just, I think I relate more to Homecoming in a number of ways. One thing I will say, Into the Spider-Verse's soundtrack is like awesome. It's incredible. Great soundtrack.
I will say I think it is, though, like I said, I'm not like completely in love with it. I do think it's my favorite Spider-Man movie above Spider-Man 2 at this point.
I really, for me, I really relate to Tom Holland's portrayal of Peter Parker as opposed to Miles Morales, which is funny because I'm a biracial kid as well, you know. And Miles Morales is obviously biracial. It's a great movie. I still personally like Homecoming more. But who's to say if I don't watch Spider-Verse a second time and I end up liking it more and it passes it? It's not like it's clearly one is way better to me than the other. It's very close for me, personally. That's it for me, though, in terms of everything. I kind of went on for a while with Trials, so what about you guys?
Kingdom Hearts, guys. Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
3.
How far are you?
Right now?
I'm into San Fran Tokyo, or whatever the hell they call it. Big Hero 6.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
And are you doing them by the level recommendation, so like in order?
Yes. Yep. So I just did the Caribbean. Yeah. Which, okay. I'm enjoying the game very much. Definitely like a good game, worth playing if you've played the other games, and I got to know how it ends up. But yeah. But I finally played enough.
You played a lot, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but you jumped a long way.
Yeah, I think I'm at the in-game thing. It says I'm at like 29 hours, so it's been a bit. Yep. But
you're close.
Definitely, there's a lot of problems, and I want to poke at those really quick. The story, like the Kingdom Hearts story, the little bit that I've even experienced thus far has been meaningless at best. And I played 30. I'm like nearly done, so I'm kind of sitting here like,
that's how I felt.
So what the hell have I been doing? Your motivation to go to each of these worlds is non-existent. Like there's no reason to go to these worlds. I mean, when you get there, you find some stuff to do coincidentally, but there was no reason really to go to each of them to begin with. And every so often, you talk to one of the organization members, and they don't really have much reason to be at any of these worlds either, for the most part. And so, like the story, like overall Kingdom Hearts story is just not progressing. It's really baffling that I'm this far.
Very unengaging.
Yeah,
it's like it starts off well, and then you get probably past 5 hours, and then it just they don't do anything with it, man. And that's not how Kingdom Hearts games have been. The side stories. It's really weird.
You're right. It's felt out of character compared to all the other games. Like, yeah, they go heavy on it at first. Like, okay, we got to do all this. We got to find a replica, yada yada, and then like that's it. So far, there's been nothing. I was screwing around in the Caribbean world for this whole time, like looking for this black box or something, and then we find out that like it's just meaningless and there was no reason to be there at all. And I just
this game,
I'm really kind of flustered with this whole thing so far. I don't understand. Yeah. It's like it's been pointless. I mean, I've enjoyed the gameplay, which I'm definitely with you though. It's really easy, Jordan. And then all the systems are useless. I mean, you don't need to use them, and they're so disjointed that you don't really want to. I don't want to use flow motion. There's like one or two points where it forces you to, but otherwise I'm like, I'm not screwing around with this.
That's just adding it to the checklist of, well, that was the 3DS's, take home mechanic.
Right.
And so they have to pick one thing from every game.
Yeah, and it's like, I think you said it last week, where like they kind of just merged all that crap together just for the sake of putting it all together, and it just doesn't work well. It's not cohesive, like all these gameplay elements. So,
dude, I'm honestly, Dom, did you play 3D?
No.
Okay, I'm just glad that we didn't get the Dream Eater section, because you haven't played Pokemon Sun or Moon, but Jared has, right?
Yeah.
So, Jared, the thing that just killed me with Sun and Moon was actually it reminding me of Kingdom Hearts 3D, where you have these sections of just petting the animal basically with your 3D touchscreen.
Oh yeah, I ignore that.
I know, but it was like, it felt like it was gonna matter. It felt like my Pokemon were gonna be not underpowered, but like I could be missing out on so much potential. And same thing with the Dream Eaters from Kingdom Hearts 3D, where it's like, I'm just so glad that is not in Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm glad that we don't have cards from Chain of Memories. So the fact that flow motion is kind of there, it's annoying actually, because you have to use it in San Francisco, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, and it's just obnoxious. But they could have made it even worse, is all I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird that this is by far obviously the best looking game in the series, and the combat I think is still overall it's the best combat. It feels great, right? despite it's too easy and some things, but it still feels awesome and it is fun to play.
Yeah, if it was balanced, if it was balanced, like an actual regular Kingdom Hearts game, it would be the combat would be awesome.
I don't find the combat that interesting. For me, it's pretty much just mash until I can press Y, and then I push Y a bunch.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is because it's so imbalanced that it's giving you those options way, like that ticker on their computer screen is turned way too far up. Those should be coming through, a third of the time as often.
Yeah, it's like teacup shooter, then combo special, and then I get in the pirate ship, and it's just like mash, 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 Y, mash, 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 Y. Yeah.
You can even have abilities where it comes in more often. You can up the amount of times
cooldown,
the frequency. Yeah.
So I mean, despite you're totally right, Jared. That's the gist of it. That's pretty much every fight. Yet somehow it's still fun though. It's weird, right? Like you still don't hate doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just not. It's not making you think. It's not kind of going to that deeper level of engagement, I guess. Which is disappointing.
A lot of potential.
Yeah, but so it's weird that it looks so good and like it has so much that it did right, or technically, but this is somehow like right now this is easily like the worst game in the series to me that I've played.
Oh wow!
Like feels weird to say, but like it's like I mean, Birth by Sleep was superb.
So...
Kingdom Hearts 2 was great.
You haven't played 3D though. You haven't played 3D.
I did play Chain of Memories though, and I liked that more than this. Although I was a kid, I'm sure if I played it today, I'd have a different story. But at the time, it was brand new on GBA, and it was Chain of Memories was a great game. I'd say at the time, at least from my perspective.
See, that's the thing, Dom. You've played GBA. I've played PS2, and those are like wildly different versions, even though one's a remake. So
and it just
this is my least favorite too, and I've only played the 3 mainline, so it's like
it's just a weird thing that
I will say out of the mainline games, it's my least favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm anticipating from what I've heard, like you get the last chunk of the game is where they actually do get back to the overarching story, and that wraps up, and we'll see how that goes. But right now, that's how I'm feeling about this game. It's kind of like okay, I still like it. I still like playing it. But yeah, to me, like it just reminds me that the original game is just far and away the best out of this whole series.
Well, the problem with the game is that it's 15-year-old game design with modern day graphics.
Yeah, so you're right. It's a bit of a disconnect there. With it looks so cool. The cutscenes look great. Like, dude, Donald in the Caribbean world, Donald freaking Duck looks awesome as a pirate. Explain that to me. It doesn't make any damn sense why he looks so cool and so good.
Like the thing is, if you bump down the graphics on this game and you said that this was like a launch title for PS3, I would totally buy it.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't in no way does it feel like a current gen game in terms of game design. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, I really agree. But
gummy ships. Why are gummy ships in this fucking game, dude? Like they didn't need to bring all of Kingdom Hearts along, and it's one of those things where it's not nearly, in my opinion, as bad as The Last Jedi. I don't even think it's bad. And The Last Jedi has only gotten worse in my mind over time, but it's like The Last Jedi in the sense for me where it has these awesome parts of this thing that I love, and then it has these parts that are nearly heartbreaking to me that are not like, sad emotional scenes that are meant to be heartbreaking. They're heartbreaking because they're breaking my heart in the way that they're treating this or fumbling this or just fucking it up in general. So that's how I feel about it in a macro way, I guess.
So yeah, that's where I'm at with Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm going to finish it almost certainly before I talk to you guys next, so more to come on that next week, I guess. But yeah, that's really all I've been doing. So
yeah, like 20 hours of that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So then I'm upset, boys. I am upset. Not only have I not been able to bring myself to face Kingdom Hearts 3, face my fears, if you will. I've been wrestling with the Anthem. Anthem has entered my life and just tortured me, I would say. Starts off launch night. I'm hyped for this game. I told you guys about it on the last podcast. It was only a few hours before launch. And boy, was I ready. So I get there at 11 p.m. when it unlocks, and I'm sitting there trying to load up, and it takes 5 minutes for me to even, get past the start screen because I think it basically what happens is it'll try to connect, and then, if it won't, which happens way too often, then it will kind of like restart the whole game where it'll play the Bioware intro screen and then bring you back to the title screen of the game and try to reconnect again. And that happened multiple times before I was able to even get in and start the actual game, 5 minutes after I had tried to initially start it. So that was obviously not a good beginning, and every time I've played it, I have at some point in my play session been kicked to the title screen because of server disconnection. And I mentioned to you guys, like, my computer lets me know when I get disconnected from the internet, and that was never the case. So this was on their end, and not really much I can do with it. Some players have been, doing port forwarding and all this crap on their network. It's ridiculous that should even be the case, that I would have to mess with my own network just to be able to connect on an EA server, because it's just ridiculous, man. I mean, it's also ridiculous thinking about all the issues that I've heard coming from Apex Legends, where people are having the game crash on them every time they play.
Specifically on PC.
And I've heard it on PS4. It happened to Kind of Funny on there.
You're talking about the crash. Okay, I'm thinking of the server disconnect. The crash is happening on PS4. Yeah.
Yeah. So crashing on Apex is what I was talking about. Server disconnects on Anthem, but it's all under EA's umbrella, and it's ridiculous nonetheless. Where specifically with Anthem being, you have to play it online. I can't just play the story by myself offline. I tried to just disconnect my network, even though I had heard before the game came out that you couldn't do that. It wouldn't let me. And the problem here is I've had it happen where I'm all the way at the end of a mission, right? And I finish the mission, get the checkpoint for the finished mission, and the game saves that part, but then disconnects me while it's giving me all my loot and treasure, and I lose out on that because of the server disconnect and getting kicked back to the title screen. So it's just so disheartening, once again heartbreaking, like I was saying earlier. I've been crestfallen, if you will, with this situation, because I've wanted to just kind of evaluate the game on its own merits, but this technical, logistical bullshit is even getting in the way. So that's been very frustrating. And then, yeah, I'll say that even the game that I have played hasn't been necessarily ultra compelling. I wouldn't even say super compelling. It's just been fun. There's definitely a lot of cool stuff to be mined with the suit. The Javelin suit itself is definitely fun to fly around in, and dash around in. You guys know how much I love a game with a dash button. So the combat, when it's working out well, is pretty fun. I've had plenty of combat glitches. That's another thing, is the game is very glitchy, where enemy bodies will be disappearing, just glitch out and exit existence at that point. And there's just tons of technical stuff that is, unpolished, I guess you could say. So a lot of frustration with Anthem. I eventually just had to put it down. I haven't gone back since version 1.03 came out. Not even sure if anything's been updated again since then. But I just got so frustrated that I couldn't keep trying to bang my head against that brick wall, and so I had to put it down and certainly didn't want to frustrate with myself with another game like Kingdom Hearts. So haven't been playing much after those first several days of fiasco with Anthem, unfortunately.
The funny thing is, that's 3 games in a row that you've been frustrated with: Kingdom Hearts, Wargroove, and then Anthem. You forgot Wargroove.
Dude, Wargroove, man.
Well,
fucking Wargroove. It's like, why would you tie your attack power to your health bar? That doesn't even make fucking sense to me. That doesn't make any goddamn sense to me.
No,
like, you're going to do less of an attack when you have less health. Okay, well, then I'm fucked from the start, I guess.
I like characters with that unique ability, like they get stronger as they lose health, but that shouldn't be a core mechanic.
Yeah, that sounds like an ability in an RPG. That's a different thing. It's like, well, actually, one of the things that I like in Kingdom Hearts is the Rage form, where you can keep upping your attack if you, like, basically hurt yourself and just take a chunk of your health. So you make yourself more vulnerable while upping your attack power. So stuff like that is cool in certain instances, but to build a game's combat system around it, especially when it's a strategy game.
Yeah, when Sora goes Super Saiyan God. What were we going to say, Don?
So yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've only been like vaguely kind of following Anthem so far, and I don't know, from the sounds of it, this seems like that this game is going to be really, really good in a few months.
Will be. Yeah, it's suffering from all of the games as service issues. The thing that sucks too is EA actually has a track record of their games working worse on PlayStation. Don't know why that is, but their servers are always worse on PlayStation. I don't know, it's because they don't prioritize it or anything, but it's still not acceptable.
Yeah, it could be a Sony problem, like they're at fault. But
I'm sure there's issues with Sony. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Maybe, yeah.
But there's also, regardless of that, there's just bugs and bullshit and, like I said, logistical problems. So there's a lot of mess with the game.
So aside
just the server issues.
What's most disappointing to me, I mean, like these like bugs and like server issues, like that happens, right? Like it seems like every other game of this magnitude that's like a online only type of game that's this big has some kind of substantial problems with server stuff and connection issues and all that kind of stuff. Like that's a common thing at launch for these types of games. I think what's more disappointing though is like hearing about like, okay, well the end game is non-existent. There's not that much to do. It's really content light. That kind of stuff.
The problems go on and on.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I think is kind of inexcusable.
But that's a problem with games as service games too, though. Every games as service game that's come out has been content light in the end game. Well, Division 2 didn't get better till later on patch. Destiny 2.
That's another thing.
I meant in terms of like it's harder to excuse that kind of thing, right? You know what I mean? I think Jason Schreier, I want to say, was the one who tweeted this, and it's I don't know, it sounded super good, but he said something along the lines of, I hope Anthem and he even mentioned Fallout 76 and similar games. I hope like this reminds these publishers that like what they think a minimum viable product is not that. And from the very initial sounds of it, Anthem's not selling what they wanted it to initially. So, and it's hard to recover from a bad launch like this, right? So even if they fix this game and it becomes a great game, they're never going to get back all the bad will they built up around this game, right? It's kind of always going to be like,
and not only this game, Bioware has taken their name out back and drug it through the mud and dropped it down the fucking outhouse's hole and just left it there for a couple weeks and then decided to take a piss on it one weekend and said, oh wait, let's get the fishing pole out and pull our name back out of the fucking slop. And then they were like, we're Bioware. We still cool, guys? We still good? No, they've totally, in my mind, and I honestly believe the general air of them in the hearts and minds of gamers, they have been tarnished in a way that they will most likely never recover from, and it's all their own doing. And EA, but certainly them and EA, but I absolutely have to look at the leadership of the studio and the way that they've been boggling things and watching it. I mean, this goes back to the Mass Effect trilogy, original trilogy. So at a certain point, EA is responsible, but then there's also a point where it's like, well, is it always EA's fault, or can we look at BioWare after so many of these instances and say, guys, you can't keep doing this to us. It's not okay.
The Mass Effect 3 thing is different, though. That was a subjective argument of players being pissed off at the way they decided to end the trilogy. That's different than releasing a...
No, the argument is about the fact that you go through this entire trilogy with your saves being imported from game to game, and most of the differences, the big difference at the end is the color of the beam, the sky beam. And then there's a couple of other little differences, picture frames here and there. And that was the big issue at hand, I think, at large with Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, but there could be an artistic argument that sometimes your decisions don't mean anything in the end, too. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with the ending of Mass Effect 3.
I don't think that's what they were going for, though, dude. They're not going for some like psychological thing where it's like nothing matters, man. Nothing matters, bro.
I don't know. I wasn't part of the team, so I can't say either way. We can agree to disagree on that.
I'm just saying they've been fumbling the ball for years now, for games now, game after game, and regardless of what team at BioWare made Mass Effect Andromeda, regardless of what leader, Casey Hudson or not, was involved, the splash screen says BioWare, and that used to mean something in a much more prestigious light than it does now. It's like I said, I think it is unfortunately eternally tarnished, not to the point of oblivion, but they have done something to their reputation that was completely unnecessary in my eyes and has been really disappointing and, once again, heartbreaking to watch.
I don't know. If people see it like that, I wouldn't want those people as fans of me anyways. And let me explain. If you're saying it's been tarnished beyond recognition and it's like no coming back from it, because...
That's not what I said at all.
You said it's almost near oblivion.
I just said it has not been tarnished to oblivion. But they've changed the entire perception of their studio to the point where they have a chance to come back, but it is going to be such a difficult road that was never necessary to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have a tough hill to climb. You cannot disagree with that. I'm not saying that they're done. I'm saying that they have built such a tough hill for themselves to climb that was never needed in the first place.
I don't know. I disagree. I think if they come out with Mass Effect 4 or something, I think people will just
Dragon Age 5, I guess, is it, or 4 or
technically
5,
that would be next. Yeah. But even it's not
really,
as big of a franchise as Mass Effect.
People are just going to walk in the door on that after Anthem, unless I don't even think a Taken King situation could change Anthem to the point where people are walking in the door on Dragon Age yeah, we're good to go, man. We trust you. We're good vibes. We don't have ill will towards this studio. It's not like, let's say, Ghost of Tsushima with Sucker Punch. I don't have any ill will whatsoever with Sucker Punch after the Infamous series and then First Light, the great DLC pack. I'm ready to fucking go, even though it's a totally new series. I have faith in them. I don't have any reason to look at them in a bad light. But with Dragon Age, even though Dragon Age Inquisition is an awesome fucking game, it's like, dude,
They're also not owned by EA. The thing is with being owned by EA too, you have a shorter leash with gamers too. I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like having this discussion for another 20 minutes. I understand where you're coming from, and I do think they have a hole to climb out of. It's just saying that's almost irreparable.
An important part of my opinion on the game Anthem, which I just started playing as it's now been released, is the fact that I think that they've done something horrible to the reputation of the studio. So that's my point. I made it.
Yeah, but we're acting as if Anthem reviewed as badly as 76 did.
I mean, the Metacritic score is pretty damn close. They're both in the 60s, aren't they?
No, Anthem's low 70s.
3 days. It was
in the 60s when only it was in the 60s only when PC reviews were out.
Sure. I would say that that's close enough to 76 with me. It's not in the same realm, I'll agree. It is not nearly as bad as 76 sounds. 76 sounds like an absolute disaster. This is a major disappointment. They're different things.
I think in 6 months this game will have a good reputation again. They won't win back all of the players, but then again, I don't know if a lot of people, as Dom mentioned, that we've had reports that it's not selling well either. So it's not like there's a bunch of people who are buying it and then being disappointed, like with Destiny. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but it just seems like people aren't buying it, period, because of the backlash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a.
It's not like they
even. Let's just say with Respawn, right? You said you said Sucker Punch isn't owned by EA. Even with issues that EA has had and minor issues with Respawn and the Titanfall series, I don't think people are looking at them with like hatred in their hearts walking into Jedi Fallen Order, whereas it's not just me. I mean, I'm not even like totally... I pre-ordered the game after Andromeda, so I still have faith in Bioware. But I'm saying the hearts and minds, like I said, of gamers as a whole... It's just, it was unnecessary is my biggest point. It's like, why did you guys have to do this to yourself? You guys know how to make decent games. Look at the Dragon Age series.
Well, Mass Effect series too.
You had to take your... Well, yeah, you know how to make good games. The Dragon Age series has never been like at the point where we're at after Andromeda. Dragon Age Inquisition, we're still in good standing. That's the only, at this point, kind of... touch point that they have to lean on and say, hey, the last game in this series, not Mass Effect unfortunately, but the last game in the Dragon Age series, you guys like that. So
not according to like every journalist.
Yeah, well, we've kind of made the joke that there's revisionist history on that, but let's go back to the Metacritic score. That game was beloved, plenty of Game of the Year awards. We liked it. A lot of people love that game, right? So that, they do have goodwill on the Dragon Age series for sure, because even 2, which is the least liked, wasn't hated. So they're good on that, but the revisionist history, I think, comes with that. That's kind of proven my point, is like, people are so down on BioWare as a whole, they can't even see through their clouded hatred in their minds and say, oh no, of course I like Dragon Age Inquisition. They've like built up this false bullshit in their heads of like, no, we just hate BioWare. I
think the reason I'm not like as dire on it is because, and I understand where you're coming from. We're talking general consensus and general opinion, right? For me personally, Andromeda wasn't made by Team A, and it seems like Anthem was a game that they were forced into making. A single player studio was forced into making a multiplayer game, and obviously it's having a ton of issues because it's that way.
I think that Project Dylan and all that, it sounds like they wanted to make this.
I don't know. There's even reports that Respawn has way more leeway with EA and they get to choose their release dates. Like Jason Schreier reported that they chose the release date for Titanfall 2. EA didn't. Yeah, and that they wanted to get Apex out. So, I'm just saying, for me, it's not... I'm skeptical, but it's not like dire for me. Because...
But think about it this way, Jared. I know that you are not wary of the genre of like the shared world shooters, but you're like, you got your ears perked up. You know that it's going to take a while probably for these games to get somewhere. But I would say you're a bigger BioWare fan than even I am, and you weren't there for their day one big release of Team A BioWare. You know, the Mass Effect trilogy guys, right? So like,
and the reason that was is because
your interest wasn't all the way there.
And it wasn't because of BioWare, it was because of BioWare Games as a Service game that with early reviews was saying it has all the issues Games as a Service games have. So I'm like, I'm cool picking it up in 6 months. You know what I mean? So, anyways, let's get to the quickie news. It was a good discussion. I completely see where you're coming from, Jordan. I don't want to try to discount.
Big release. I think it deserves the time.
Yeah. I'm not trying to discount your opinion or anything. I was just trying to come from my perspective of like, I'm skeptical, but I still have faith in them. And like I mentioned in our own, when we were talking about it, the next single player game that comes out, so Dragon Age 5 we assume, right? Or 4?
Sure.
4? 4.
It's 4.
4. If that game comes out and that game doesn't do well, then I will be like, okay, washing my hands clean, BioWare has totally lost it. But for me, I'm not giving them a...
is where we're looking at EA just
shutting him down,
putting a gun in the back of their head.
Mass Effect Andromeda, I give it a pass because I thought that game was good. After they fixed all the wonky animations, the game was actually pretty solid, right? But we're talking about launch,
but that's like
and obviously at
Assassin's
launch,
Creed Unity. no one's ever going to go back and be
Exactly.
like, oh, actually, Unity is a pretty good game. Like, that game's done, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what matters,
so Jared,
really, at the end of the fucking day.
Jared, what I'd say, though, is like, okay, yeah, say...
There's no DLC for Andromeda. What the fuck world are we living in? There's no DLC. There's no expansion pass.
So, Jared, what I'd say there, though, is so say, like, the next bunch of Anthem DLC just only gets worse and the game continues on the how it started, and then say the next Dragon Age is even worse somehow. I can't imagine, but you know, and then say Jedi Fallen Order is just a shithole too. Like, say all those things happen, but then like, I mean, that's gonna deteriorate your opinion of BioWare and EA, whatever, for the time being. But like, the next couple years later, they release Mass Effect 4 or whatever they'd call it, and it's a superb and it's an awesome game, and it reviews off the charts. Like, well, you're still gonna buy it, right? We're all gonna buy it, right? You know.
I was thinking about this. Okay, if they don't name the next Mass Effect game Mass Effect 4, then they're idiots. Because then you just say, oh, Andromeda was like just a spin-off. Sorry, it wasn't as good. It was a B team, you know. It's a Far Cry New Dawn almost. Not quite, you know. It's a Far Cry Primal, if you will. They can act like that. They can act like that if they just say, this, baby, is Mass Effect 4.
They could also
real sequel.
They could also tie it directly to Shepard's story, which would make it okay with people.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see what happens there. And I do agree with you, Dom, that if it does get reviews, I'll be excited. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, if Dragon Age 4 comes out and it's not good, I'm gonna lose faith in terms of being excited before the release of a game. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Until those reviews comes out. Still with BioWare now, the moment I see a new,
it sucks we're having this conversation. BioWare shouldn't be in this conversation.
Exactly. The one thing I will say, obviously Anthem has a lot of issues that we know about, but the gleaming ray of hope throughout it that leads me to believe BioWare still has it in terms of what I seek from them is everybody who's beaten the game says that, like, yeah, the story is like not super captivating, but the relationships between characters is authentically BioWare. And that to me is like good. Because that means they still have that.
I will say, you know, I honestly didn't even get to talk too much about the game because I didn't get to play it because I kept getting disconnected. I will agree with that, Jared, but I get pulled out of the experience when I'm jumping from third person to first person going into the Fort Tarsus, and I'm talking with those, having those, you know, social links, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a little bit jarring for me jumping from third to first. But I will say that's kind of the one ray of hope where it's like some of these characters have at least got my attention, you know.
Yeah. Whereas like in Destiny, you're always in third person in those bases, and I know it's a difference of like people liking first to third, but like even them, they're just like static people standing there talking like 15 feet away from you, being like, Guardian, how was your journey? It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
as shiny as these two fucking games are, these big planet-faring adventures, these sci-fi romps, if you will, they should not be as hollow as they feel. Destiny and Mass Effect, it really is upsetting. Especially, dude, this is the original writer of the Mass Effect series, Drew Karpyshyn. Like, what the fuck? They you know, gimped him on this story where it's just repetitive missions, and people are right, it is like, you know, collectible missions. I've been on multiple collectible missions in the first 5 hours of like, get these shards, gotta get all the light shards and bring them back here, bullshit like that. So
the one thing I want to say too is Division 2 is right around the corner. Obviously that's another games as service game people are looking forward to. People were excited because all of the DLC was going to be free, but recently, and this isn't in the news, but I wanted to mention it,
shit.
Ubisoft came out and announced essentially, yeah, all of that DLC and everything's going to be free, but for $40, you get that stuff a week early.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which isn't terrible.
It's
like whatever, but it's still like gross. Yeah, it's like...
Honestly?
I get it.
It's gross because of the way they put it. Why wouldn't...
Yeah.
Think about this. Why wouldn't you just come out and say, guys, our season pass, it's $40. Well, okay, you'd still piss people off, but you could say, our season pass is $40. But we're so damn nice. A week later, we're just going to give it to you for free.
But I would save that announcement for, like, I don't know. It's gross. I understand it. The business model, I get it. You have to wait a week, stop crying. But still, it's... After hearing at E3, you know, when they're like,
Weird.
all DLC is going to be free. And they're like, no.
Weird.
Anyways, yeah, we went a long time, but it was a worthy discussion. Like you said, it's a big game. All of us really enjoy Bioware, so it's worth having a discussion about. Let's get into this quickie news and then the final news here. So we're going to go through these, not at a blistering pace, but if there's anything you want to comment on, go ahead. So first off, Resident Evil 0, 1 HD, and 4 are coming to Switch on the eShop on May 21st. Oh, cool. The games will be available for pre-order starting the day of recording this, February 28th. Turns out each of those games is going to be around $30.
Fucking dumb.
Which is awful. Yeah.
Real quick, though, even though we were just shitting on the actual shooting mechanics of being on the Switch, Resident Evil 4 still has the fucking tank controls, even though it's, the shining gem of the series that everyone
It
talks
does not
about.
have tank controls.
If they have, like, a motion... Huh?
4 doesn't have tank controls.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, not when I played it on, like, GameCube, and I guess Wii doesn't really count because that was motion controls, but...
That's what I was about to say. That may be the thing, because it is tank controls, but if we have motion on the Switch, that might be like, oh, now I can actually play Resident Evil 4.
For $30, like, that's insane pricing. We were talking about, remember, Final Fantasy VII being $22.
That's not Nintendo first party. That'll be on sale. It's too much. It should be $20.
Capcom that surge
the PS4
pricing.
versions are $20, but maybe it's because they're adding that HD rumble, that motion, baby.
Gross. Next up, an official Monster Rancher franchise Twitter account has recently surfaced. Fans are speculating what this means. One tweet from the account states, "Please give us your support in the future." For reference, 2019 is actually the 20th year anniversary of Monster Rancher 2, which was the one in the series that kind of blew up. And it released in 1999, obviously. And the last release in the Monster Hunter series was My Monster Rancher, which is a mobile game released in 2011. So the franchise has been dormant for a while. People are wondering what's going to happen. Obviously, with Monster Rancher, you used to insert your CDs to get new monsters. People are wondering, well, what are they going to do for that now? The assumption is save data, because they've done that with some recent releases where it uses your save data to create monsters as opposed to individual compact discs. Next up, this happened moments before recording the show. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign remaster was rated for PS4 in Europe. This year is Infinity Ward's year. There's a rumor that it's going to be Modern Warfare 4 in terms of their new release. Would make sense if they bundle this just like they did the original Modern Warfare.
Oh, God.
Dom, we were talking about it.
Everybody off.
Yeah, I hope they don't do it like
pissed
that.
everybody off. They're probably they're going to do it exactly the same way.
Oh, they will, too.
Which is funny because for March, one of the free PS Plus games is the first Modern Warfare Remastered.
Yeah, because at this point in existence, you can buy it separately, right?
Yes.
It was delayed. It was delayed when you could buy it separately.
Yeah, so that's interesting. This wasn't on the news either, but March will be the first month where there's no more Vita or PS3 games. So they had to come hot with The Witness and Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, which I think is a great month. So, yeah, that's that. Next up for Jordan, Mario Tennis Aces, we have some news of a couple of characters. Comic, who
They're
people
changing.
don't really...
No more racket health, right, Jared? No more racket health.
Comic, who people don't... Or Kamek, who people don't probably know the name of, the blue wizard character that's been in all the Mario games. He's coming in April, and our boy Dry Bones is finally coming in May. The holdout is over.
Oh, wow.
Dry Bones is making his way to Mario Tennis Aces. So that's cool. Whatever. Whoever's still playing that is stoked.
I just can't. It's like Wargroove, man. It's like you built your game on some, in my opinion, stupid bullshit.
Yeah.
I can't.
This is actually one of the crazier news stories. So Ryan McCaffrey, who hosts IGN Unlocked, and he also does a interview series called Unfiltered. By the way, really surprising news. I'm going to add this in. IGN is getting rid of all of their video podcasts. They're going straight audio.
Weird.
Very weird. Yeah.
Are they still going to post on YouTube?
It'd be an audio file with like a picture, but
right.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. They haven't announced that. I'm just speculating or assuming.
That's not even a real thing?
That I don't know if they're putting it on YouTube. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So they're definitely taking out video.
Yeah, eliminating video from their podcasts. Crazy. kind of eliminates them for me because I like to watch stuff. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, it's besides the point. So Ryan McCaffrey on his IGN Unfiltered series was interviewing Bonnie Ross, who, if you're not familiar, is the head of 343 Industries, the Halo team. Well, the Halo team that took over after Bungie. She stated in the interview that before her studio was formed, because she was working at Microsoft and then she formed 343, before they took over the Halo series from Bungie, that when Bungie had left, Microsoft actually considered handing over the franchise to a third-party developer for the next couple of entries. And you want to know who that developer was?
Third-party developer was?
Gearbox Software. Yeah.
They be on 8chan, bruh.
God. Thank God that didn't happen. I know people love Borderlands. That's cool. I do not want Gearbox touching Halo, in my opinion.
Then Jared, at least they'd have a legitimate excuse for not making Borderlands 3.
It would be interesting. God, it would be interesting to see Halo with its core gameplay, but with that art style. I would just be interested to see what that looked like.
Oh no, they'd make a regular Halo game.
Yeah, who knows? It's just because this would have been before Borderlands 2. So,
Jared, Halo Colonial Marines.
God, there was actually, I didn't include this in the quickie news. I didn't write it down, but I'll mention it. There was an employee spotlight. 343 does this for their employees to give a spotlight to some of their workers that they really appreciate and are doing like exemplary work. And I forgot the name of the fellow, unfortunately, but in his write-up, they talked about a 2D platformer game that they were working on internally called Halo Heroes. And it was like a multiplayer arcade 2D platforming Halo game. And it looks really cute.
Cute?
Really cool. Yeah, it's cute. It's like a little like chibi Master Chief and Spartans and stuff. It was more oriented at a younger audience, obviously. But it never came to fruition. It was just a really cool internal project that they worked on.
There's actually multiple Halo spin-offs like that. It's
yeah.
kind of weird.
Their weird deal with the Playmobil and the Halo toys and all that stuff.
Yep.
Next up, the EVO 2019 lineup was announced. I know we're not all huge fighting game fans, but there's some interesting news here that I want to talk about. So the 9 games, some of them super Japanese. We have Under Night in Birth, which is a fighting game.
What?
We have Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, which is, if you're familiar with EVO, Blaze Blue is a game or a franchise that's normally in EVO. They have the Ruby characters from Rooster Teeth in it. Next up, Samurai Showdown, which is a remake of the old school Samurai Showdown game, which hasn't even been released yet. Apparently it's released like a couple of weeks before EVO, which is kind of crazy. But now to the actual fighting games that, Western audiences will more than likely know. Street Fighter V Arcade Edition made it in. No duh. Tekken 7 made it in, which is awesome. Dragon Ball Z Fighters made it in, which people weren't sure if it was going to because... not because Jump Force is going to take over for it, but the meta's in a weird place right now, so people are wondering if the EVO judges were going to consider it with its competitive scene not being super great right now in terms of the meta.
Yeah, because who published the game? They, stopped doing tournaments or whatever, something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Fighters?
Yeah, not Bandai. No. You're thinking of... what's the other game? It wasn't Fighters that they stopped doing tournaments for. You have it confused with another fighting game. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But it wasn't DB Fighters. It was a different fighting title. Soul Calibur 6. Cool. I want to see Geralt smash some faces at EVO. And here's where it gets really cool. So Mortal Kombat 11 made the list, which people weren't sure either because that's coming out a couple of, about 6 weeks before EVO. And that's going to be headlining Sunday, which is huge. Sunday's like when, the biggest audience is watching EVO. But the biggest news is so that's 8 games. The last game is Smash Brothers Ultimate, which is obviously, you're going to have the newest Smash Brothers game in it. But this will actually mark the first time since 2013 that Melee isn't at EVO. And this is actually kind of a big thing because the Smash community is divided and people always consider Melee to be the gold standard. And some of the best Smash players play Melee and they don't play anything else. So this is kind of controversial because, like I said, Melee has been at EVO since 2013, and it's not going to be there this year. And the community is divided.
Fighters was getting pulled from tournaments.
It was? Okay.
Yes. DualShockers.com.
So this has actually the fighting game community divided because half the community is upset because Melee they feel should be at EVO every year because it is the best Smash game, whereas the other half of the community is like, finally get over it. It's an old game. Move on, right? I know we're not all huge fighting game fans, but what do you guys think about that? About the community being divided on Melee not making it?
It is a big deal because that. So I'm sorry, Switch is in it.
Yeah, Ultimate is in it. Yes.
Okay, so that's the thing is people were like, oh, probably thinking, are they going to chop it off as soon as the Ultimate version comes in? And I'm sure that there are people that like Melee better than Ultimate, even though there's.
Well, remember the last couple of years, it was Melee and the Wii U game. It was 2 Smash games have been at EVO. Now it's only 1.
I guess what I would say, because I'm a dumb, fun-sucking, dry old man, is
Oh my gosh.
what I would say is, how do they make these decisions as far as what games get into EVO? And also, as someone who's ignorant of the topic entirely, but how do they make these decisions? Is it not like based on, at least like trying to be based on some audience exactly demand? So I mean, popularity or community forums, or I don't know. I just can't imagine that they are not. If there's some kind of board of people who run this tournament or something, if they're not like trying to do their best to, put the games in that they think best represent the fighting community. I don't know.
Well, Dom, the EVO board has been they've been known that they hate Melee. Like, the EVO board has been known for a while that they hate that the game is even at EVO.
So they're kind of defying that demand because they want like newer games or something. They want to move on from that already or have a bias against it.
Well, no, well, yeah, they've wanted the game to not be at EVO for a long time now because they did feel that it was holding back the event as a whole because it is such an old game, and they feel that with newer games you have metas evolving and you have players like learning, and it's a lot more competitive and interesting, whereas if you feature a game like Melee, it's going to be the same 12 old dudes that have been playing forever, right, that are usually going to be at the top of the list. No new players are going to want to go back to play Melee at a competitive level, so...
There's got to be other games that people want to see, though, that are, like, technically classic games compared to newer games that are, like, still being updated or whatever. So why wouldn't they just kind of have, like, an arm of the, I don't know, what is it, EVO, a tournament or whatever?
Yeah.
That is, classic games, Melee and fucking Virtua Fighter, I don't know, whatever you guys want to do.
Well, I think also you have to think about it from a marketing and partnership standpoint is EVO partners with a lot of these games and publishers because we often see reveals from these games. I guarantee you we'll probably see a Mortal Kombat 11 DLC character reveal at EVO.
Yeah, they're not going to reveal a new Smash Bros.
Melee character, exactly. Or a new commercial or a new edition or something. So yeah, it's interesting to see a community like that we're not really a part of be divided on that. And to be frank, from what I've read, it's more of a 75-25 split of people are happy that it's gone. It's not really a 50-50 split. But the Melee community is very vocal, so they make sure they sound like 50%.
Just think about how, like, the iron-fisted grip of that game in that community.
Yeah.
Well,
even people complain that people complain that you can still use a GameCube controller on your Switch because they kind of want to move past that, It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Next up, a quick announcement. CD Projekt Red has confirmed they're going to be at E3 2019 with Cyberpunk 2077. Though this isn't like breaking, shocking news, it's cool to be confirmed. I would almost guarantee that we're going to see this at Xbox's conference. We're not seeing it at Nintendo's, and PlayStation isn't holding a conference. So, right? We could pencil this in for Xbox's thing? Or am I off base on that?
Yeah, it was there. It ended their last conference.
Exactly, yeah. I just want to make sure I'm not like, no, Jared, they're going to hold their own event or something. I don't know. I just want to see if you guys had any other opinions.
They fucking could, man.
But here's the thing, though, is there's been some reports this week about CD Projekt and GOG not really doing too well, and they've had layoffs. So there's a underlying conspiracy theory that they made this announcement to kind of get some goodwill in the news circuit because there was news of layoffs and stuff for GOG and which that's not marketing. It seems like something they would do. Makes sense. Nothing too crazy there. I hope we actually see legitimate gameplay I mean, we saw gameplay last year, but it was like a demo. You know what I mean? I want to see more of like a free form piece of gameplay, which would be really cool.
I gotta say, obviously I'm still hyped on Cyberpunk to the max. Not to the max, but definitely very hyped. But they announced this game so long ago, it would do them well to get it out because...
Well, to that point...
Yes, whenever they show the game, it looks great and gets great hype, but every other thing that comes out is all bad news about CD Projekt and their situation, their business, whatever it may be. Layoffs here, Glassdoor reviews there. It's just like they need this game to come out and actually be awesome and, all that.
There was some talk on Twitter that apparently people were like discussing why they think this game has taken so long to come out, right? It's a long development cycle because it's a very ambitious game. But one of the running pieces of information that people are hearing is that in the last couple of years, they actually completely changed the gameplay loop of Cyberpunk 2077.
They didn't say that specifically, but when those people like threatened them and leaked that shit, they're like, yeah, that's basically a totally different game from a while ago.
Yeah.
So we honestly don't care if you release it because it's it's not even, they didn't say this exactly, but it's not indicative of the game that we're currently developing. So I figured as such. And
changing the core gameplay loop like that can add years to a development. You know what I mean? So I do think it will come out before the end of 2021. I'm hoping we get 2020 as a release date at E3. It's not coming out this year. Not a chance in hell that this game comes out 2019. But I could see fall 2020 or even like a summerish, like a May. We'll see, though. I
can see them saying it's coming out this year, but yeah, I don't think it's going to.
Yeah. Dom, anything to say about Cyberpunk being at E3?
Nah, I bet if either they won't say anything about a year or a release date at all. If they do, it'll be just a vague, like, next year, I bet. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And lastly, another confirmation, EA confirmed that we'll get our first look at Jedi Fallen Order at Star Wars Celebration on April 13th, which is cool. We still haven't seen anything of this game. People are wondering, how is this game coming out this fall if we haven't seen it? Well, I assume we're not going to see a lot at Star Wars Celebration, right? I think we'll see... honestly, I don't even think we'll see actual gameplay. I think it'll be a CG trailer.
2-minute trailer?
Yeah, I think a 2-minute CG trailer introducing us to maybe either the primary protagonist or the antagonist. I don't think we'll see actual gameplay until E3. What do you guys think we're going to see?
That sounds about right, because then they can kind of focus on that at E3, along with whatever...
The blowout, yeah.
Along with whatever Anthem expansions they want to talk about.
What if it's just... what's his name over at Respawn? The head of
that
Respawn.
Awkward guy.
Just sitting in the crowd with Andrea Renee, like, we're doing a game.
The thing is, Vince Zampella, he's actually not that awkward. I am convinced that he was stoned.
No, it's not even that. Yeah, it was just such a fucking dumb way to do that. It's like EA has their head so far up their ass sometimes that they're actually trying to walk around, and you're like, what?
You could even tell.
See them walk by, and it's like a person wrapped up into their own, with their head up their own ass, walking past you.
The thing is that he's close friends with Andrea Renee, Vincent Pella, and it just seemed like an interview of he's like, I have to do this. They asked me to do this goddamn thing.
I could see that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes sense. They usually do this with their games where it's like a cinematic, like they did with Battlefield, where we got the cinematic and then at E3 we get the blood of gameplay, right? By the way, where's Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode? Now with Apex Legends out, I don't even know if EA cares. Sure. The one thing I will say, so with Apex Legends, I would love if Respawn's allowed to add in Star Wars-inspired skins for characters. I mean, my dream would be like add in actual Star Wars characters, but that would be like lore breaking, and even then the licensing and the nightmare there, even though they're working on Jedi Fallen Order. But I would love like some kind of, like in Fallen Order, I would love an Easter egg to Apex Legends. Like not even directly like referencing them or anything, nothing like that, but just a subtle environment Easter egg would be really cool for people who play Apex Legends. Something to do with one of the legends or something. Anyways, super excited about that. This could be a good year for Star Wars, which is great if Fallen Order hits and Episode 9 hits. because the last thing I want to do is hear about that fan base talking on Twitter. Lastly, let's get into some Pokemon news, boys. We got a Pokemon Direct.
The
Pokemon Sword, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, which is...
Okay, can we do a real quick thing where we choose what we'd like the third version to be?
Okay. You want me to go first?
Pokemon Lancer.
I want Crown. Sword, Shield, and Crown.
I'm gonna guess what will absolutely not be the actual result, and I'm gonna say Pokemon Gun.
Okay. People like the idea of Staff, Sword, Shield, Staff, but I like Crown.
I would say Sword, Shield, Spear sounds likely, but I would really like. What did I say?
Or Armor.
Lance.
I would like Lance, and they won't do it because of Anthem, but you could do Javelin, something like that. Lancer is cool, though.
The fact that it's in England, like royalty, right? Crown makes sense.
The Galar region.
Pokemon Sword, Shield, Cup.
Lance.
So anyways, Pokemon Sword and Shield were announced. Interesting titles. Obviously, they usually go towards, like, colors. Or, I guess Sun and Moon kind of broke that tradition. Was the first one to do that, but yeah, Sword and Shield, very interesting. Obviously, we'll get into why that plays into the possible legendaries. I'm going to go through this information, and anytime you want to, like, stop and talk about it a little bit, just let me know. I'll get into some of it as well. So it's going to be releasing later in 2019. The assumption is November. It's usually when Pokemon games are released. Could be late October as well. It's directed by Shigeru Omori. If you're not familiar, he directed Oras, which is Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and he directed Sun and Moon. And that's important, as we'll get into later. But he stated that we're challenging ourselves to try new things while still treasuring what makes Pokemon special. Omori has taken over from Masuda and a couple of the other directors, and he's a younger guy. And people have credited him with taking risks. Sun and Moon didn't feature gyms. They featured, like, these weird challenge things. And we talked about this privately, Dom. I said that as somebody who's played every generation of Pokemon, though it's still incremental, it's not what people absolutely want, there has been more evolution in the layout of a Pokemon game the last 3 gens, more so than there has been the previous 5, and a lot of that is credited to Omori.
But are we getting gyms here? I don't think we're getting gyms, are we?
I think the stadiums are... We'll get it. We can talk about it a little later as well. But yeah, I think the stadiums that we saw, the soccer stadiums, I think that's the play on it. And I think what they're doing is usually with gyms, it's you go in there, there's a couple of other fighters you face, and it's themed on some, like, puzzle you have to solve. I think this one really wants to play up the spectacle Pokemon battles, and I think this is going to be about you, like, becoming maybe not famous, but, like, you know, playing in front of a crowd and, like, building up on that. And a lot of you beating these gym leaders will be focused not so much on...
Oh, shit. Are we going to... I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we going to have, like, 100 battle tower like we did in Coliseum, dude?
There was a battle tower like that in Black and White. And there is a tower that looks like... What's the name of the building in London that looks like the Space Needle in Seattle? Can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's like a pinpoint building, but there is something that resembles that in the map for the Galar region. Nice. So one thing is there's no obvious or apparent Let's Go integration yet. Obviously, we saw a very brief glimpse of the game, but we saw random battles, so you're not seeing the wild Pokemon, which is actually one of the only features from the Let's Go games I would have wanted, and follower Pokemon, though that's not out of question, because they could have just had it so they didn't have a Pokemon in their number 1 spot to save that reveal for later that following Pokemon are coming back. Graphically, it's not a major leap, but so I actually went back after the Direct and booted up Sun and Moon to, like, check it out to make sure I wasn't, like, overselling it. It isn't a major leap graphically, but there is clearly, like, way more design detail in terms of, like, buildings, like the objects they have in there, and then on characters there's more design detail and there's more, like, shadow casting. So it is a step up. Obviously it's not a drastic step up, but it is a visual improvement.
So I got something on this topic actually, Jared, and not much else on the game, but my initial thought was like, I was kind of... And disappointing is not really fair because I've not played Pokemon since I was a kid, and so it's like, This world really wasn't
Yeah.
going to do anything for me no matter what. But my first thought was like, oh, it looks like, an up-res 3DS Pokemon game. Which now I'm like, the more I think about it, and that's really, really unfair, because if think about like year-to-year Call of Duty games, and even the Call of Duty games like from PS3 to PS4, for example, graphically, there's not that much difference. So this is actually even though you could tell it was, they started with like the 3DS assets probably, and it kind of went from there. It's not like a whole new system, but it's still a sizable jump in graphics. It's just not like the people wanted like a full 3D action type game or something. Well, it's not that, right? But I think it's still a pretty sizable advancement in terms of graphics to me. I don't know. And so those criticisms I think are kind of unfair, because it's kind of a good leap in that sense, I'd say.
I think a lot of that has to do with expectations, obviously. And if the Switch was only a handheld,
right,
I think people would be excited with the leap.
Yeah.
But the fact that the Switch has so much more power than just a handheld, maybe not so much more, but more power than just a handheld.
Yeah, but... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you were, like... I was going to build once you finish. Sorry.
Oh. Go ahead, Jordan.
Just comparing this to the leap for Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
I think the leap here is done so much more smoothly. This is how I expected
good argument.
it to look.
Good call.
This is how I expected it to look, and I'm totally pleased. I think another big thing that I talked about with Fire Emblem, that had poor artistic design choices that made it look dull, and this doesn't. This may not be the highest resolution thing you've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And there might be areas that do look less detailed than other first-party Nintendo games on the Switch, but it certainly has a vibrancy, and it certainly has exciting artistic choices that have my interest piqued. So I think that people are going to freak out when the next game is not 10 times better. I think it's going to look better. I think it's going to feel a lot different, but I'm glad where we're at. I'm like, if you guys were able to turn around a Pokemon like this so quick on the Switch, as long as it is quality and it doesn't have a bunch of let's go bullshit and like random, brushing the dirt off my Pokemon on the touchscreen bullshit, then
that's a good
excited.
point you mentioned, Jordan, is that this is a quick turnaround. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is, when did Sun and Moon come out? 2017 fall?
2016.
16, and then we had Ultra Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
We had Ultra Sun and Moon the following year, and then we had Let's Go last year.
Yeah, so you're talking 3 years with, games in between. So, like, this is pretty damn quick turnaround. So, like, yeah, to expect, I don't know, it's just worth thinking about. That's all.
Yeah, and
yeah.
the way
I of course people are gonna bitch, right? But it's like, no, dude, this game's gonna be fucking dope.
I think, and the reason I'm impressed and it exceeded my expectations, not crazily, like it didn't like hype me up crazy, but I consider this like a cross-gen game, except it's not coming out on the last gen. You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think we could see a crazier leap from this to the next game. Like I mentioned when I was talking to you guys, I think the next game will be the one where we'll see how they decide to handle the Switch. I think that's the one where we judge, okay, how incremental.
Mostly it'll just kind of shift to more of an open worldish vibe, even though this one will probably have that too. I feel like next one they'll probably just nail about the giant feeling of the world, hopefully. But,
yeah. I honestly think
most of the time Switch worlds do feel more empty, just because of the processing power, like Breath of the Wild, for example. So, I don't know. I'm just excited to play Pokemon on the Switch, like real fucking Pokemon.
Think about this. Like, so if they take this graphic style, think of it pumped up a little bit higher than what this one will be. Think of a little bit more open design, and then it's red and blue. People will lose their minds. Because the next game is going to be a remake, and people are like, "Oh, they'll just remake Gen 4." I don't think so. I think with the really, Switch,
I don't know, man. I think Let's Go is like them saying that's our remake, guys.
No, because hardcore fans.
You sure?
Yeah, it's tough.
It doesn't matter what the fans think, though. I think the Pokemon Company in their heads, it's like, guys, we did the remake.
But Let's Go didn't sell very well in Japan.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope that they're gonna, that they would be open to doing something like
Well,
that.
the next game will be a remake. We just don't know of what. They've never
said that.
Well, that's Pokemon's track record going back to 1998, Jordan.
But that's what I'm saying. It's quite possible that in their minds, I'm not saying it's for sure.
Yeah.
But in their minds, they might be thinking, well, we just did the remake with Let's Go.
Well, no, what I'm saying is their next game will be a remake, but I'm saying I think it'll be Red and Blue, but it'll probably be Gen 4. Because that's been their track record. It's remake, then a new title, then a remake, then a new title. Remember they did Soul Silver.
It's been off and on every time?
Yeah. It was Soul Silver, Heart Gold, then Black and White, then Oros, then Sun and Moon.
Black and White 2.
Well, that came right after Black and White. It was Black and White 2, Oros, and then Sun and Moon.
So not quite off and on.
Well, that's a Sun and Moon. Black and White 2 are technically.
I guess it's like the Ultra version.
Exactly. Yeah. So that doesn't really. That's like Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Either way, the Let's Go games have kind of fucked us as far as like. Because there's always been spin-offs, but those feel so major in a way, even if they didn't sell well in Japan. Because people did freak out about them over here. So,
but the red and blue.
I just hope it doesn't fuck up the main line. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we're talking about they don't care about the fans already buying a remake. You don't think they know that like the red and blue gen outsells all the other ones? And they're not just going to remake it again and be like, well, you got that one, but that's more of like a casual experience.
You really think so? I just feel like that was as close as we're going to get, unfortunately. I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah, I don't know. They've remade it twice already, so they had the Fire Red and Leaf Green, and then now with this game, I think they're more than willing to go back on the Switch, especially when it has a huge install base, and that'll even sell more Switch consoles. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. Let's get to more
Remind me, Gen 4, real quick, is Ruby Sapphire?
No, that's Gen 3.
No. So Gen 4 is Diamond?
Diamond, Pearl, Crystal.
Platinum. Crystal
is... yes, yeah. I always get those two confused for some reason. Let's get to some more of these details so we can close out the show because we're going a little long. The Galar region, Gen 8 region, obviously based on the UK. It's vertically rectangular as opposed to most of the other maps that are square regions. Even Sun and Moon, it's islands, but it's a square, right? And this one's very vertical, going up.
To the mountains.
It features, the wall, which we'll get into right now. So the features a train system, which is iconic to, obviously, England and the UK. Rolling hills, London-inspired city, countrysides. Has a broken down castle near some lakes, which is really interesting. Could be a cool area. Probably some ghostly, ghastly Pokemon there.
Dude, it reminds me of Westeros, the way it goes up into the north.
Well, yeah, because Westeros is based off of a map of the UK. So that's why people are making jokes on Twitter. Like, oh, it's based on Game of Thrones. It's like, that's funny, but it's also just based on the UK
and
as
you
well.
got your Harrenhal, like you said, you got near the lake. You got your little fucked up castle, Harrenhal.
And then on the wall at the top, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So there's obviously that. One thing I will say, we were talking about the graphics earlier, Dom, and you were talking about how it does clearly look better. The shot in the trailer where you see the character walking and you see that the figure on the hill, and it's like in the distance. That is really impressive. There wasn't really a scene like that in the environment in Sun and Moon. I thought that was very impressive, like the draw distance of that. And that figure is actually based on what I found out is called the Cernobassa Giant, which is this giant carving in the side of an English hill of a villager dude with a giant penis. Obviously, Nintendo didn't go with the giant penis. But yeah, if you can Google it, and it's a villager dude with a giant wang.
Dude, there's like phallic statues, ancient phallic statues that are like, what? What?
Yeah.
The fuck were you guys thinking?
It's like Egyptians are obsessed with cats. The UK was obsessed with something else. So the wall at the top is kind of inspired-ish by Game of Thrones. Looking at the map, they released it. What I noticed is there was a grass gym. And obviously these could be dual types. There was a grass gym, which is like standard, a water gym, which is standard. But there was a fairy gym, which is super dope because there's never actually been a fairy gym in a Pokemon game, and it lends itself to kind of like Scottish and Celtic mythology. So that's really awesome. It's like in a little forest. And there's also in the ice area, people at first glance are like, oh, it's just an ice gym. But the logo on it isn't ice, isn't the white color associated with the ice type in Pokemon. It's black, which means that it's either a dark ice suit, like dual gym, or it's just a dark gym, which we've also never had, which is really cool too. One other thing that I noticed is in the map there's the lakes. We could possibly see a reference to the Loch Ness Monster, Jordan, with like a Lapras or something, or a new Pokemon that looks like Loch Ness. And this is one thing I was going to say about the map is that, and the story, is that it may revolve around royalty or inspired by Wars of the Roses, which is what inspired Game of Thrones, which, if you don't know, was the war between the House of York and the House of Lancaster, which obviously George R. R. Martin turned into House Stark and House Lannister. York, Stark, Lancaster, Lannister.
Sword and shield.
The one thing I will say, too, is you guys both watched the trailer? Or did you guys see the map, at least?
Yeah.
So, one thing that's interesting about this map is that the most advanced city in this game looks to be at the top at the end of your journey, which is a lot different than almost any other Pokemon game, because usually the most advanced map in town in any region is like the market city. You know, like in every Pokemon game, there's like the big town where there's like the shopping center and you get your stones and your elixirs and all that stuff. This is the first time that a Pokemon game seems to have the most advanced, largest city at the end of the game, which is really interesting. We assume it's at the end because it's at the top of the map and the starting village is at the bottom, but with the train system, who knows? So
this is going to be cool for the anime because with Sun and Moon and it being all like Hawaii and shit, they basically made the anime look like Ponyo for the Sun and Moon seasons.
Yeah.
So when they end up doing Pokemon's Sword and Shield anime, it'll be like a fantasy anime. So I think that'll be really fucking cool.
The other rumor is people think that top city is Rhyme City, which, if you're not familiar, is a city featured in the Detective Pikachu series, which is London in the Pokemon world. And people think that you'll get there and there'll probably be like a Detective Pikachu shout out or Easter egg or something. But people are assuming that that's...
Dude, I bet there'll be a whole like storyline, you know, where you're dealing with all that shit.
Well, and that's the side note too, is I almost guarantee that Gen 8 Pokemon are in Detective Pikachu and they've probably been edited out of the trailers.
Yeah.
I almost guarantee that. And we'll see some...
There's going to be icons, dude. There's going to be icons from this gen.
And lastly, the last couple of things. The biggest, more advanced city seems to be the side of the Elite Four Endgame. Duh. That's where the big tower is, Jordan, where we were talking about like a battle...
battle tower.
Exactly. Football, soccer stadiums may be the overarching theme for the gyms. Usually there is a theme.
Yeah.
And it may not be a traditional gym, just like in Sun and Moon, they weren't traditional gyms. Be interesting to see what happens there. Starters...
With them like returning to console, if they take some influence from Pokemon Coliseum, that is going to be right up my alley, man. Pokemon Coliseum.
The starters are a grass monkey named Grookey, who I like. Score Bunny, who's the fire rabbit, who looks like
my dude.
The Trix rabbit. That's the crowd favorite right now. It's everybody's favorite. And the sad boy Sobble, who's a water chameleon. I had a funny tweet where I named them, and I called the grass monkey Caesar Salad, which I don't know if anyone got the reference. Caesar from Planet of the Apes, and salad because he's grass. I said that the fire bunny was named Who Flamed Roger Rabbit.
Oh wow!
And I said Sobble's name was Rango's depressed stepson.
Wow. Score Bunny's a shitty name.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Score Bunny's a shitty name.
I like Sobble.
By the way, it reminds me of my Litten from Sun and Moon, or Sun, I should say, named Scorch Cat.
Ooh. I don't pick my starter until I see the final evolutions, because like you're with these little baby boys not that long, so I want to see if they turn into something grotesque or something cool. My hope is...
Dude, Score Bunnies at Evos are going to be fucking cool. I just
really?
feel it.
I think... it depends.
Dude, think of like a badass like fire. Oh,
but they could
it's
go
gonna be
weird
like
and go super
Blaziken.
buck teeth. That's what I'm afraid
Yeah,
of.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be more.
I'm
Blaziken.
picturing like the fucking
Like
Trix
a-
bunny with like a backwards hat. I think I saw a tweet of that.
Grookey, I want to be a silverback gorilla covered in moss. If it's anywhere close to that, I'm 100% down.
Sounds sweet.
You know what? As soon as we get done here, I'm gonna go and look up what people have drawn up
Fan
as
theories.
the evolutions, because those were the coolest in Sun and Moon, and I can't wait to see what people thought of.
Lastly, off the top, just knowing the level 1 starters, Jordan, you're Score Bunny, right? And I'm Grookey. That can change with the third level evolutions. We'll see. For me, anyways.
And I'm Shield, by the way. I'm playing Shield.
I'm down with Shield too, but like I said, for the sake of discussion, I might go Sword, just so we have different experiences, slightly different.
Yeah.
There's this weird thing. Everyone's like, who would ever pick Shield? I'm like, the kids who think they're cool pick Sword. Like the kids who are like, I'm cool. You know what I mean? It's whole conversation.
I just felt the Shield, you know. I
Yeah,
felt
me
the
too.
vibes. I was like, because you could see them doing like sword and spear, you know, like two kind of weapons.
Yeah.
But it's cool that it's attack and defense.
Well, real quick, the last point before we close out the show. So the wolf head is actually featured on both of the logos. It's at the hilt of the sword and at the top of the shield. The assumption is that the legendary or the para-legendaries are wolves, and one of them is defensive based, i.e. shield, and one of them is offensive based, sword.
Baby. Oh,
I
love the big cat legendaries. You know, Raiku's like my favorite Pokemon, so the wolf legendaries, I am pumped for.
I hope so. We talked about it could be based on the Wars of the Roses. Imagine if one wolf is the house wolf of one
They're
house.
direwolves.
Yeah, one is a
They're gonna be
direwolf for
direwolves.
one house and one is a direwolf for the other, and they're like separated at birth or something.
Yeah, they're
And-
gonna have like banners.
And one house is like defensive based and one house is offensive based. There's a whole like thing there that could be really cool. I'm excited. We'll get definitely a lot more details at E3 and we'll talk about it. Yeah, I think it was overall real quick. I want to know what you guys think in terms of the what you expect and what was announced. I thought it slightly exceeded my expectations, and I set them appropriately. I wasn't Breath of the Wilding like all these crazy lunatics. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah. Yep. I would say the same. You know, I love Pokemon and not everything about Pokemon, but I think I was, like Jared said, appropriately excited, and I feel like they seem to be nailing it. It seems like this is going to be a great entry in the series and a great starting off point for the mainline games on the Switch. And yeah, I'm got me very hyped, very excited. And if it comes out in 2019, then that's a big deal to me. If we have to wait till 2020, I don't think it's going to get delayed, but if we did, that's a disappointment. Because the fact that it's not, you know, Breath of the Wild is okay because it's in 2019. I think for some weird reason in my own head canon, I guess you could say. So that's where I'm at.
With the release of Detective Pikachu, this game is Pokemon games never get delayed.
Yeah.
So it's guaranteed.
Yeah. It's coming out.
Dom, for somebody who's probably not buying the game, or maybe not day one or at all, what did you think about the announcement?
So once again,
are you day one right now?
No, God no.
He's day never.
So once again, as a snobby old grumpy man, and maybe a bit edgy in this case, I'll say this looks like a great Pokemon game that is on the 3DS's 6-seating console.
Okay.
Well, I think what he's basically agreeing with your point about it being a cross-generational game that is on 3DS.
Yeah.
I think.
Is there, real quick, you don't have to go on and on about it, probably the answer is just nothing. But, Dom, is there anything you could see at E3 that would tip your hat towards the chance or possibility of buying this game?
Yes. If Dragon Quest 11S gets canceled entirely for Switch in the US, then I might consider Pokemon.
Damn.
Oh, you're interested in Dragon Quest?
Yeah, I have been for a while. Ever since they remade
Cool.
8 on 3DS, I was like, "Ooh, that looks kind of cool." Actually, I don't know. And it's like, anytime there's like a series that's had 10 games, it's like it's worth looking at.
We all know that Dom's a huge Dragon Ball fan, Jared. So his Akira Toriyama love comes through here.
And you'll actually get the good version of the game, according to all those people who are mad that they bought the PS4 version with the
Dude,
bad
I
music.
feel so bad for them But it's like Michael Huber said, I think on Frame Trap, it's like, if you waited, you win. I'm like, oh,
Or, I mean, just buy it again, too.
and I wanted to play it so bad.
Yeah.
But no, and...
Or just play it again, true.
And so I'm not going to come off and pretend I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan or something. I've never played one, but I don't know. Coming into this year, I've been kind of like hungry for a deep RPG on the Switch. And, you know, we got Fire Emblem coming out, and now Dragon Quest has kind of been on the radar, and they got great reviews on PS4. There's Pokemon game, which didn't have as much of a chance, really, for me. But yeah, now we got all these Final Fantasy games coming on Switch, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know, I'm feeling like a good RPG, and Dragon Quest seems like it's going to be that. So, sorry, Pokemon, but...
Would you get Pokemon Crown if it came out next year? The third version?
No, I'm more likely to play Let's Go, to be honest, because I would at least have the nostalgia in that. Yeah,
What?
I think it's pretty cool.
Gotcha.
Fuck!
Because of the nostalgia, which is what got people.
Dumb. You just broke my heart. You just broke my heart.
Lastly, before we move on to what we've been playing and get out of here, because we're at a record pace right now. I am happy that a lot of that Let's Go stuff didn't make it in. Like I said, I would love to see the...
Let's Go is an abomination. Let's Go is a fucking abomination.
I would have loved to see the non-wild encounters, but like, I'm glad that they understand that their core base did not like what was in that game, and the people who did.
Dude.
But dumb, I was sitting there on the purchase, dude. I was like, nostalgia, and then I was like, Jared, you can't let nostalgia control you like this.
I was the same, man. I was the same. Dude, okay, here's the thing. I would have bought Let's Go if you could battle Pokemon in the wild.
You mean you don't like just flicking a Pokeball over and over?
Yeah, like, that's ridiculous. That's abomination type shit. So,
it's not for me, so I
fact,
get it, but
dude,
yeah.
Dude, if we didn't have random encounters in Sword and Shield, I would be pissed.
Well, that's why they made it a point to show that in the trailer. That's like one of the first things they showed. They're like, she's crawling in the bush, random encounter. They're fighting. Don't worry, they're fighting. In terms of what we're going to be playing, more Trials Rising for me. I want to get through Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm at the point, and the reason I haven't really gone to it when I have free time is, like we talked about this last week, is like, I don't dislike the game. I am having fun, but it's like, do I really want to play?
It's bittersweet.
Yeah. Also, I made the commitment that I'm going to be playing through the first 2 Metro games again before I get to Exodus, just because I want to go in like freshly with the story, because it's been so long since I played those games, and they're not very long either. They're like 8 to 12 hours a piece. Yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. So it's pretty much it for me. I want to get to Umbrella Academy too, so I'm stoked to get to that as well. And we're recording later than usual next week, so I wanted to mention, obviously, Captain Marvel. I'm super excited. Reviews are really great from everybody, and then the people I actually like really, really love their opinion in terms of movies, they're gushing about it. What I want to say is, like, Brie Larson got yoked for the role. I don't know if you guys have seen the image of her on the red carpet for the premiere.
Yoked.
Dude, her back muscles are like #goals. Like, seriously, like, I don't know if you've seen Room, right, Jordan? Like, she plays a frail character in that. It's the whole point, right?
I mean, Brie Larson is just like a regular girl. She's not, she's not Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot.
Well, Gal Gadot is tall, but she's also kind of frail.
Stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brie Larson wasn't a stick, but she's just like a normal sized girl, so I'm sure that they had her just,
people are saying, obviously, Samuel L. Jackson is great in the movie, and from what everyone's saying is, like, she's like a great addition. If she's going to be leading the Avengers post Endgame, it's going to be great. So, it's pretty much it for me. Excited for all that. What about you guys?
Just off of that, I want to say I'm just excited to have an excuse to go see something in the Dolby theater.
I'm going IMAX 2D. Can't wait.
Theaters. Yeah. I've been wanting to go see stuff and like fucking Unbreakable sequel. Glass.
I was gonna say Split. Well, technically I was right.
I was thinking Split. Glass was, not super well reviewed, so I'm gonna wait and just watch that at home.
Same.
And I just could not get myself to go see Bumblebee or Aquaman in the theaters. So
Same.
There's been some stuff like that where it's like almost, but not quite. And this is the first one of the year where I'm just fucking down. So yeah, definitely excited for Captain Marvel.
Dude, Captain Marvel, and then in 2 weeks we have Us.
Oh,
So
Us,
good.
man.
March is awesome.
Yeah, that'll be cool. So, Anthem. Anthem. I'm gonna play this game at some point, but I'm wondering if I should just, cut my losses even though I paid for the, launch day price, if I should just put it away for now, or if I should try now that they've had an update or two.
My honest opinion,
go along
just wait.
with it.
Sorry to jump in. My honest opinion, Jordan, wait.
Yeah.
I think
it's devastating.
I think the thing is,
like I said.
the thing is, you already have the feeling of being disappointed, right? I would,
Unfortunately.
yes. What I would do is I would wait and come back to it at a later time whenever you want to get back to it. The thing is, you already paid the money. You're not getting the money back, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, and
it's whatever. Yeah.
People bitch and moan about $60 for a game. Like, to me, it's like, especially if I'm buying a new game once a month, maybe. A lot of times it's not even once a month. It's like, I mean, okay, not a huge deal. Now, I don't want to get fucked over.
Exactly.
Which I do feel like I did in this situation. But if it's a game that, like, I enjoy for a little while, 10, 12 hours, whatever, that's not a huge deal to me. So, yeah, if I spent the money initially and don't get to enjoy it initially, it's not the end of the world to me. So I might end up doing that because it was such a frustrating situation starting off, and it's not going to be improved so much that it'll be a breeze this time. I'm sure there's still going to be issues where we're at right now. So
yeah, what I would say is, like, if you were just having issues with the repetitive, like, missions, or you weren't connecting with the story, or if it was stuff like that, I'd be like, oh, just jump back in and see if you find stuff that you enjoy with it. Because it's like server issues and bugs and all of this other stuff, and they're retooling drops. I would just wait, dude. Just wait, take a breather, and hop back to it at a later date. Yeah. At the same time, you decide to go back and finish Kingdom Hearts 3, whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks. Like you said, there's just been bam, 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 these games coming out that I really am excited for, and hype and excitement are different for me. It's kind of based on how I almost let myself go, and so either way, it just sucks. But yeah. We'll see. I'm sure I'll play something this week.
Who would have thought at this point, the two best reviewed games for the year are Resident Evil 2 and pretty much Metro Exodus.
Yep.
Out of all of the releases we had, I'm happy because I love Metro.
Resident Evil 2 was, when people were worried about it not ever showing after the initial We Do It video, I thought that might actually be a great thing because they are just hard at work, toiling away. Resident Evil 7's coming out. You got your Resident Evil. Play that for now, and then we'll come and hit you with a bang. Remake. So I'm glad for those fans.
Dom, I'm assuming you're finishing Kingdom Hearts 3 this week?
Yeah.
On remote play, probably?
That's going to be the focus. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, did you play 20 hours of remote play,
Probably
Dom?
about 15 of it was remote play, yeah.
Wow.
It's really good. It's great.
Wow.
And the fact that it's a PS3 game probably means it runs excellent on the Vita. It's a joke. The thing is, I think we're all enjoying Kingdom Hearts 3, but we have issues, and that's completely fine. So.
Dude, there's parts of Red Dead that feel like a PS3 game. I think there's a lot of games that still feel like they were developed for last gen in some ways. Some aspects of them,
Yeah, I wouldn't say the Red Dead things are necessarily last gen things. I think it's Rockstar being...
Does it not feel last gen when you have to redo your loadout every time you go to your horse? Stuff like
I don't think that's last gen.
Controls that are the same as Red Dead Redemption 1, that feels very PS3.
No, what I was going to say is I don't think that feels last gen. I think that feels like stubborn Rockstar, if that makes sense. Still bad, but I don't think it's necessarily a product of last gen. It's a product of Rockstar not wanting to change that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
The jump button being on circle in Kingdom Hearts is stubborn Square Enix. Also, let me say real quick, I meant to mention this earlier. Kingdom Hearts 4 being done by someone other than Nomura sounds very enticing to me. I really want that to happen.
I agree. Maybe the dialogue won't feel like it was written by my 10-year-old nephew.
Jesus Christ.
I don't think Nomura writes it either. I'm sorry, Nomura. Bad shots fired. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode of the Controlled Interest Gamecast. Thank you for listening to our first ever 2-hour episode of the podcast. Special bonus. If you can, please follow us on iTunes, leave us a review, go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, it helps. Twitter at CTRLINT, it's Controlled Interest abbreviated. You can find Dom at Dom's Oreos. You can find Jordan at Melomotus. You can find me at Jared_. Yeah, we'll catch you guys next week, episode 136. We're going to have a guest on, Chris Nunes, who's been on before. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.